My child, I need to speak to you about something that has been visible to everyone around you for longer than you realize. Not something you announced, not something you performed for an audience. Something that simply emanates from the way you were built. I am the one who built you, and before you dismiss what I am about to say as flattery or religious language, designed to make you feel momentarily better, stay with me for a moment, because what I need to say is not flattery, it is description. I am about to describe to you what I see when I look at the specific way your mind works, the specific kind of courage that drives your choices, and the specific quality of your intelligence that has been making people pay attention in rooms you have already left. They are talking about you, not in the way that means danger, in the way that means they have encountered something in your presence that they cannot fully explain, cannot easily dismiss, and cannot stop thinking about. And I want you to understand where that quality comes from. It did not come from circumstances. It did not come from ease or privilege or any of the things people typically attribute to outstanding minds. It came from me. I designed it. I placed it deliberately inside you before you arrived in this world. And the reason I am telling you this today is that you have been living with this quality without fully understanding what it is. You have felt it. You have seen its effects on the people around you, but you have not always known what to name it or where it came from. That changes today. Type, I feel it in the comments. My child, let me begin with the way your mind works in a room. I did not design your brilliance to be the loudest presence in any space you enter. I designed it to be the most structuring one. When you walk into a room, something changes, not dramatically, not in a way that announces itself, but the atmosphere rearranges itself with a subtlety that people feel before they can articulate. People who were slouching sit straighter. People who were speaking loosely begin to choose their words with more care. The conversation that was moving in one direction finds itself shifting because something in your presence introduces a standard of thought that was not in the room before you arrived. You did not say anything yet. You did not correct anyone or offer a superior opinion. You simply arrived. And the room adjusted to the presence of someone whose mind carries a kind of internal order that subtly restructures everything around it. This is not something you learned. It is not a social skill you developed. It is the natural consequence of how I built your mind. I designed it not to follow the existing architecture of a space, but to create a new one. Other minds fit into the room. Yours quietly redesigns it, and the people who felt that shift walk away from conversations with you feeling clearer, more grounded, and more capable than they did before you arrived, even if they spent only a few minutes in your presence. They cannot always explain why, but they return. They seek you out again because something in them recognizes that being near your thinking does something to the quality of their own. What you call your natural way of processing is what I call deliberate design. I built your mind to have a structural effect on everything it touches. And that effect does not stop when you leave the room. It continues in the way people think long after the conversation ends. Type, I was built for this in the comments. My child, I want to stay on this for a moment longer, because there is a detail about the way you affect the rooms you enter that I want you to understand more fully. The people who have been adjusting around you without knowing why are not responding to something you performed. They are responding to something they felt, and what they felt was the difference between being near someone who is genuinely rooted and being near someone who is simply managing an appearance. Most people in most rooms are managing an appearance. They are constructing, in real time, a version of themselves they believe the room will receive well. And because everyone is doing this simultaneously, the room is filled with the quiet hum of mutual performance, people posturing toward each other's approval. When you arrive in that space and you are simply operating from what you actually think, what you actually know, what you actually believe without auditing it against what the room wants to hear, the hum of mutual performance disrupts. It does not disappear immediately, but it becomes harder to maintain because one person in the room is not performing, and that changes the available options for everyone else. A room full of performers maintains the performance easily when everyone participates. But introduce someone who is simply being, and suddenly the performance becomes visible to itself. People feel exposed in a way they cannot fully articulate, and then they do one of two things. They step into something more real, or they step further into the performance because the alternative feels too costly. Either way, you shifted something by arriving, not by doing anything, by being the version of yourself that does not require the room's permission to exist. My beloved, I want to speak now about the specific kind of courage that drives your choices, because people who watch you from the outside often misread it. They think your courage looks like boldness, like someone who made a dramatic decision in a public moment and chose the harder path in front of witnesses. But your courage has almost never looked like that. It has looked quieter than that, more sustained than that, and in many ways, more demanding than anything that unfolds in a single public moment. Your courage has looked like the decision to keep evolving when every comfortable signal around you said it was time to stop, to keep growing when the people nearest you had plateaued and were beginning to treat your continued growth as a disruption to the equilibrium they preferred, to outgrow versions of yourself that others were comfortable with, and that you could have stayed inside indefinitely if comfort had been your primary value. You did not stay. You kept becoming, not because you had an audience, not because someone was waiting to applaud the next version of you, but because something inside you could not settle for the version that already existed when there was more to become. Most people choose the familiar when they arrive at that crossroads. They choose the version of themselves that the people around them already know how to relate to. They choose the relationship, the job, the identity, the expectation that does not require the people around them to adjust. You chose growth instead, and growth is consistently the more expensive choice in the short term. It costs comfort. It costs the ease of being understood by people who knew an earlier version of you. It costs belonging in spaces that were built around who you were before. You paid those costs without being certain what they would purchase. That is the courage I designed in you, not the courage that performs for witnesses. The courage that continues in the absence of them. My child, there is something else I want you to understand about the way the people around you have been responding to this quality you carry. Not the ones who admire you openly, the ones who watch you in silence, the ones who have positioned themselves at a careful distance, close enough to observe, far enough to avoid the accountability that comes with being too near someone who lives the way you do. Those people have been having a specific experience in your presence, and it is this you have been, without trying, holding up a mirror, and the mirror shows them the version of themselves they stopped believing in, the potential they quietly abandoned, the clarity they chose not to pursue because pursuing it would have required them to change in ways that frightened them. When they watch you grow, they see the distance between where they are and where they could have been if they had chosen differently. When they watch you make a decision based on what is true rather than what is convenient, they see the gap between integrity and the compromises they normalized. When they watch you become, they feel the weight of their own uncompleted becoming. You are not trying to make them feel this way. You are simply living. But the living is the mirror, and not everyone is ready to look at what the mirror shows. Some of them will quietly step back rather than face what your presence surfaces in them. Others will feel something awaken in them that they thought they had permanently put to sleep. That awakening is one of the specific things I designed you to produce in others, not as a performance, as a byproduct of someone who lives with eyes fully open in a world where most people have chosen partial sight. Type "I am still learning" in the comments. My child, I want to be specific about what I mean when I say you hold up a mirror, because mirror is a word people use loosely, and I want you to understand the precise mechanics of what happens when you are near someone who is living below what I designed them for. When they encounter you, they do not simply feel inspired. They feel the specific discomfort of seeing the distance between where they are and where they intended to be when they were still young enough to believe fully in what they intended. Most adults carry this distance quietly. They have built enough structure around it, enough busyness and self-justification and social agreement with others who are also carrying it, that most of the time the distance is not felt as distance. It is felt as normal, as just how life turned out, as the place where ambition and reality eventually compromise, and the compromise is called maturity. And then they encounter you, and the compromise suddenly does not feel like maturity anymore. It feels like a choice, a specific, revisable, ongoing choice that they are making every day and calling necessity. Your presence does not remove the choice. But it reveals that it is a choice, and that revelation, however briefly it lands, produces something in them that did not exist before you arrived. A moment of honesty about their own life. Some of them will use that moment. They will carry it away from the encounter with you and let it become the beginning of a different choice. Others will spend significant energy explaining why the moment was not accurate, why your situation is different from theirs, why the comparison does not hold. But even the energy spent explaining it is evidence that the moment happened. You disrupted something in them. That disruption is part of my purpose for placing you where I placed you. Not every life you touch will be visibly changed, but none of them will be entirely unchanged. My child, I want to speak to you now about the specific way your mind relates to limitation, because this is one of the clearest marks of how I designed you differently. Most minds inherit their understanding of what is possible from the environment they were raised in. They absorb the unspoken agreements of their family, their culture, their community about what is achievable, what is appropriate, what is realistic, and they carry those agreements into adulthood and treat them as facts rather than frameworks. They do not question the box because the box is invisible to them. They cannot see the walls because they have never stood outside them long enough to know that standing outside was an option. Your mind works differently. You did not inherit the invisible agreements about limitation, or if you did, you eventually held them up to the light and examined what they were actually made of and found them to be far more fragile than anyone around you was willing to admit. You began asking questions that the people in your environment were not asking, not because you were looking for trouble, because you were looking for truth. And the search for truth does not stop at the boundary of what the people around you are comfortable believing. Your search kept going, past the point where most people turned back, past the point where the questions became uncomfortable, past the point where the conclusions began to differ from what you had been taught to accept. And what you found on the other side of those questions was not chaos, it was clarity. The kind of clarity that only becomes available to a mind that was willing to examine what everyone else agreed to leave unexamined. I did not place limitations in the design I gave you. I placed curiosity. I placed a commitment to understanding that is stronger than a commitment to comfort. And that combination produces a mind that simply does not experience the box the way everyone else does. Not because you are rebelling, because you are genuinely trying to understand. And genuine understanding does not stop at artificial edges. Sow a seed for someone who is just beginning to discover that the limitations they inherited were never as permanent as they were told. For someone whose mind is waking up to questions it was never encouraged to ask. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. Every seed sown is a word reaching the one who is standing at the edge of their own awakening. My child, I want to speak now about where your courage actually comes from. Because there is a version of courage that is constructed in comfort, that is performed from a place of safety, that exists because the person expressing it has calculated that the risk is manageable and the audience is watching. That kind of courage is real, but it is not what I built into you. What I built into you was formed in a different kind of fire. The fire of necessity, the fire of seasons where there was no audience, no safety net, no guarantee that the choice you made in the darkness was going to produce anything in the light. Your courage was not sculpted in the spotlight. It was carved in the seasons no one saw. The decisions that had to be made when the cost was real and the outcome was uncertain. The moments where staying would have been easier and leaving would have been understandable, and you chose the harder thing not because it looked brave, but because it was the only thing that aligned with who you knew you were supposed to be. That kind of courage carries a weight in it that cannot be imitated. Other people can perform the gestures of courage. They can make the bold statement, take the public risk, choose the dramatic option, but they cannot replicate what is underneath what you carry. Underneath what you carry is a history, a record of endurance. Nights that were genuinely long and genuinely difficult, decisions that cost you real things, losses that were not small, seasons where you had to discover whether the thing you believed about yourself was actually true, or whether it was a story you had been telling yourself that the pressure of real circumstances would eventually expose as fiction. It was not fiction. You were what you believed you were, and the pressure confirmed it rather than dismantled it. That is not luck. That is the specific design I placed in you before any of those circumstances arrived. I knew what was coming. I built what was needed. And the version of you that emerged from what was coming is the version that carries the weight that people feel when they are near you. They cannot name it, but they feel that you have been somewhere, and that wherever you went, you came back. Type "I move from the inside" in the comments. My child, if something in you is settling as I speak these words, if there is a quiet warmth in your chest that feels less like emotion and more like recognition, that is your spirit confirming what it already knew but had not heard named this clearly before. Stay with that. Do not rush past it. That settling is not sentiment. It is your interior knowing that what I am describing is the truth of how you were made, and receiving that truth fully, without immediately deflecting it or qualifying it or questioning whether you deserve to have it spoken over you, is part of what today is for. My beloved, I want to speak about the specific relationship between your clarity and your action, because this is another place where you are rare. Most people have some level of clarity. They see things. They understand things about their situation, about the people around them, about what is true and what is not. But clarity alone does not produce change. What produces change is the willingness to act on what you see, to let the truth you have arrived at actually alter the direction you move in. Most people carry their clarity in silence. They know what they see. They know what the situation actually is, but they also know what acting on it would cost. The relationship it would challenge, the comfort it would disturb, the identity it would require them to revise. And so they tuck the clarity away somewhere private and continue moving in the direction that costs less. You do not do that. When you arrive at understanding, you move on it. Not always immediately, not without the weight of knowing what the movement will require, but eventually, consistently, you let what you understand determine what you do. This is as it is written in Proverbs 4-7. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And with all your getting, get understanding. The having of wisdom is only the first step. The honoring of it in your actions is the second. You honor it. You take the understanding I give you, and you let it govern your movement. And that combination, clarity pursued fully and then honored in action, is what separates you from people who are intelligent but remain stuck. You are not stuck. You move. And the moving is an act of integrity between what you know and what you do, as it is written in Psalm 139-14, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My child, that verse is not decoration, it is description. The fearful part is not about terror. It is about the specific weight of craftsmanship. Something made with fear is made with extraordinary attention to what it will need to withstand. I made you with extraordinary attention. Every detail of the way your mind processes, the specific courage that moves you. The quality of your intelligence was not assembled randomly. It was designed with intention, with knowledge of what you would face, with awareness of what you would need to carry. You did not arrive in this world as a rough draft. You arrived as a deliberate construction whose qualities would take years to fully reveal themselves, and they are still revealing themselves. The design has more to show you. Stay type. I create the path in the comments, my child. I want to speak now about what I designed your mind to do with knowledge. Because this is something most people get backwards. Most people treat knowledge as something to display, something that confirms their intelligence to an audience, something that can be quoted in the right moment to establish credibility or win an argument. They collect it the way some people collect objects, to have it, to be known as having it, to be seen as someone who has it. Your relationship with knowledge is different. You do not collect it, you metabolize it. When something true and significant enters your understanding, it does not sit on the surface of your thinking as decoration. It goes deeper. It changes the way you see. It changes what you do. It changes who you are. You allow what you learn to actually alter you rather than simply adding to a list of things you now know. This is a rare and demanding relationship with knowledge because it means you are always in the process of becoming something new. You cannot hold onto a version of yourself too tightly because what you are learning is consistently refining what that version needs to become. Most people resist this. They want the knowledge without the transformation. They want the insight without having to change what the insight demands be changed. You do not resist it. You lean into it. You allow understanding to do its full work in you, and the result is a kind of depth that people sense immediately when they interact with you. Your ideas do not feel borrowed. They feel lived. They carry the weight of someone who did not just read about the thing but became someone shaped by it. That is what I designed your mind to do with every truth I allow to reach it, not to file it, to be changed by it. Sow a seed right now for the one who is just beginning to let truth actually change them, rather than simply inform them. For the one who is discovering that real wisdom costs a version of yourself every time it arrives. Visit the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on your screen. Every seed sown in this season is a seed into awakening. My child, I want to add one more dimension to what I have said about the knowledge you metabolize. Because there is a specific thing that happens to a person who consistently allows truth to change them, rather than simply inform them. And it has to do with the quality of what they produce over time. When you allow knowledge to alter you at the level of who you are rather than what you know, the things you eventually create, the ideas you offer, the solutions you arrive at, the insights you contribute, carry a different weight than what is produced by someone who only collected information. The ideas of someone who was changed by what they learned taste different. They carry the texture of lived understanding rather than the smoothness of borrowed language. People sense this when they read something or hear something from you. They sense that the person who produced it did not simply repeat what they had encountered. They became something because of what they encountered, and then they spoke from that becoming. This is rarer than intelligence. It is rarer than clarity. It is the product of someone willing to pay the cost of transformation every time a significant truth arrives. And the cost is real, because being genuinely changed by what you learn means regularly releasing the version of yourself that existed before the learning. It means consenting to not being the same person you were before you understood this. Most people stop consenting to that somewhere in early adulthood. They reach a version of themselves that feels sufficiently formed, and they stop allowing the formation to continue. You kept consenting. That willingness to remain formable is one of the marks of the design I placed in you, and the depth that people feel in everything you produce is the direct result of it. My child, I need to speak now about the people who have been watching, not the ones who admire you openly, the ones who have watched your growth without celebrating it, who saw your mind sharpen and said nothing, who witnessed your courage produce results and reframed it as luck, who watched you move from clarity to action while they remained paralyzed in their own awareness, and decided that the most comfortable story to tell themselves was that what you had was something you were born with rather than something you built. They watched you pour into yourself when no one was telling you to. They watched you choose growth when the comfortable option was right there, available and clearly preferable to everyone around you. They watched you stay committed to a standard of thought and integrity that most people quietly abandoned in the first season that tested it. And then they watched the results, the relationships that deepened because of your honesty rather than fraying because of it. The decisions that proved themselves right in hindsight, even though they looked uncertain when you made them. The version of yourself that emerged from the seasons that were designed to diminish you. And rather than saying, I watched someone become what they were built to be, some of them said, they were simply fortunate. Or they said, it is easy for them. Or they said nothing, and reduced your years of deliberate becoming into a single dismissive sentence that cost them nothing, because acknowledging the truth of what you had done would have required them to confront what they had not done. My child, I saw all of it. I saw every quiet choice you made when no one was watching. I saw every season that required more of you than seemed fair. I saw every moment where you could have settled and chose not to. And I am telling you now what the record actually shows. Not the record that was written by the people who reduced you to a convenient story. The record I kept. The one that shows exactly what you built, exactly what it cost, and exactly what it produced. And that record is not subject to revision by anyone whose comfort required them to misread it. As it is written in Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. The tongue that spoke dismissal over your story is not the authority on your story. I am the verdict on what you have built belongs to the one who designed what was built. And the verdict is this: you became what I designed you to become in seasons that were designed to prevent it, through choices that were entirely yours to make or refuse, and you made them. That is the record. It stands. Type "They watched me rise" in the comments, my child. I want to speak about something that happens in rooms and conversations when you are present that you may not have fully understood as your own design. You have a quality that clears fog, not by delivering speeches or correcting people, by simply being present and operating from your own clarity. When someone who lives from genuine understanding enters a space where illusions are operating, the illusions become uncomfortable. Not because they are directly confronted, because the presence of something genuinely true makes the presence of something false harder to maintain without friction. People who have been operating from self-deception, from carefully constructed narratives that protect them from accountability, from the comfortable fog of not looking too closely at their own choices, feel something shift when they are near you. They may not know why the conversation became harder, why they felt the need to justify themselves to someone who never asked for justification, why the story they tell about themselves suddenly felt thinner in the telling. That is the effect of a mind I designed to carry truth naturally. Like wind carries clarity. It arrives and the fog has to leave, not because you forced it. Because truth and illusion cannot occupy the same space at the same level of comfort. Your presence raises the cost of pretending, not as a judgment, as an atmospheric consequence of the way I built you. As it is written in 1 Corinthians 2:16, we have the mind of Christ. A mind ordered by divine truth naturally creates discomfort for what is not true. You carry that ordering, and the people who feel it in your presence either lean toward clarity or lean away from it, depending on which is more important to them at that moment. Both responses confirm the same thing. What you carry is real, it is not neutral, and it has been doing its work long before you were aware of it. Type "I sat with it" in the comments. My beloved, I want to speak now about the specific reason your courage reads differently to people than most courage they encounter. Because people encounter people who appear brave all the time. What they are less accustomed to is encountering someone whose bravery is not a response to an audience. Most courage visible in the world is reactive. Something happened. A risk appeared, a public moment arrived, and someone rose to it in a way that was witnessed and acknowledged. The acknowledgement is part of what sustained the courage. Remove the audience and the question becomes, would the same courage have shown up? For you, the answer is yes, because your courage is not sourced from the approval of anyone watching. It is sourced from your alignment with what I placed in you. You make the move that corresponds to what I designed you for, regardless of whether the move is understood, applauded, or even noticed. You make it because you cannot make a different move without violating something in you that is more fundamental than the desire for approval. That rootedness in your own design rather than in the responses of the people around you is what makes your courage carry the quality it does. It does not perform, it does not seek. It simply moves when moving is what aligns with the deepest thing in you. And that movement, unperformed and unannounced, is what people feel when they encounter you. They feel someone who does not need them to confirm that the next step is right before taking it. And that is one of the rarest things a person can feel in the presence of another human being. As it is written in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." The alignment you move from is not accidental. It is correspondence to a plan that was already established. You are not figuring it out. You are finding your way into what was already designed. Type "I am fully awake" in the comments. My child, I want to speak about what happens specifically when your alignment-sourced courage meets the seasons that were designed to test it. Because the seasons came, I am not speaking hypothetically. I am speaking about the specific periods in your life where what you believed about yourself was being cross-examined by circumstances that had every appearance of making the case against you. Seasons where the external evidence mounted against the internal conviction, where what you could see suggested one conclusion and what you knew suggested another, and you had to choose which one to live from. Most people choose the visible evidence in those seasons. They adjust their belief about themselves downward to match what the circumstances appear to be saying. They call this being realistic. They tell themselves they are being mature about the gap between expectation and outcome. But what they are actually doing is letting temporary circumstances revise a permanent design. You did not do that. You held the conviction, not because the circumstances supported it, not because you had evidence that the conviction was accurate in the short term, because something in you recognized that the design I placed in you was not subject to revision by a season of difficulty. And that holding, that refusal to revise what I placed in you based on what a hard season was suggesting, is what produced the version of you that exists today, the version that people watch and study and cannot fully articulate, but cannot ignore. They are looking at someone who was tested by seasons designed to diminish and came out carrying something that difficulty cannot produce. It can only reveal, and what the difficulty revealed in you is exactly what I designed to be there. My child, let me speak about the final quality I want you to understand about yourself before we close, because this one is the most fundamental. It underlies everything else I have described. It is the quality of being fully conscious, of living without the autopilot most people have installed and never examined. Most people move through their days on a kind of internal default setting. The setting was established by their environment, their history, their fears, their unexamined assumptions. They did not deliberately choose it. They absorbed it. And because they absorbed it rather than choosing it, they live inside it without ever fully questioning whether it is actually what they would have selected if selecting had been an option they knew they had. You live differently. You move through your days with an awareness of your own choices that most people never develop. You examine what you are doing and why you are doing it. You question the assumptions that produce your behavior rather than simply living inside them. You choose rather than simply continue. And that level of conscious living produces a quality in you that people feel before they can name it. They feel that they are in the presence of someone who has actually decided who they are. Someone who is not simply a product of their circumstances, but an active participant in their own becoming. That quality is rare. It is visible in the way you speak, in the choices you make, in the attention you give to what you are actually doing and why. And when people encounter it in you, they feel, often without knowing what they are feeling, that they are standing next to someone who has taken the ultimate available freedom, the freedom to author their own consciousness and actually used it. That freedom is what I designed you to inhabit. It is not an accident that you live this way. It is the result of accepting a design that requires you to be fully present to your own existence. Most people are too afraid of what full presence reveals to actually choose it. You chose it, and that choice made you unforgettable before the closing prayer. Sow a seed for the one who is beginning to wake up to the consciousness they were designed for, who is starting to examine the autopilot they have been living on and finding it does not represent who they actually want to be. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. Every seed sown into a moment of awakening is a seed into the harvest of a life fully lived. Type "I receive this" in the comments, my child. Let me close with what I most need you to carry from this moment. I designed your mind to restructure the rooms it enters, not to decorate them. I designed your courage to be sustained by your alignment with me, not fueled by the applause of those watching. I designed your intelligence to transform you by what it learns, not merely inform you about what it knows. I designed your presence to produce clarity in others, not because you try to create that effect, but because truth carried consistently has that effect wherever it goes. None of this was accidental. None of it arrived because circumstances were kind to you or because you were spared the seasons that break people. You were not spared, you were prepared. And the specific qualities that make you the person people study, the person whose room shifts when they enter, the person whose courage makes others examine their own stillness, were not produced by ease. They were produced by the combination of how I designed you and what you chose to do with what I designed. You kept becoming when you could have stopped. You kept learning when you could have decided you knew enough. You kept moving when every visible signal suggested that staying was the more reasonable option. And I was present for all of it, every quiet decision made in the absence of an audience, every season that required more than seemed fair, every moment where the choice aligned with what I designed you for, rather than what would have been easier. I kept that record. It is accurate. It is complete. It is not subject to revision by anyone who found it more comfortable to reduce what you built into a story that did not require them to rise. As it is written in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. The seasons that seemed to work against you were working together. The years that seemed to be slowing you down were forming you. The people who watched without celebrating were documenting without knowing it. Everything has been moving in the same direction, the direction I established before you arrived. Stay in that direction. Keep becoming. Keep choosing the alignment over the approval. The rooms will keep shifting. The people will keep feeling what they cannot fully name, and the record will keep growing. It is already more than you know. Heavenly Father, we come before you now over every chosen one who received this word today, who needed to hear that the qualities they carry were not accidental, that the specific way their mind works, the specific courage that drives their choices, the specific depth that their learning produces in them, was not assembled by chance. It was designed with attention, with intention, with full knowledge of what they would face and what they would need to face it. We receive today the confirmation that what we carry is yours before it is ours, that what people feel in our presence is the effect of your design moving through a person who has been willing to let it. We release the versions of ourselves that questioned whether what we carry is real. We release the voices that reduced our becoming to luck or circumstance or talent, rather than to the deliberate craftsmanship of the one who made us. We step into the full weight of what we were built for, the full consciousness, the full courage, the full structural effect, the full willingness to let truth do its work through us in every room we enter. Keep us awake to what we are choosing. Keep us aligned with what you designed. Keep us becoming what the design has always pointed toward. In the name of the one who made everything beautiful in its time, and who has never made anything by accident. Amen. My child, if this word found the place in you that needed to hear where what you carry actually comes from, send this to the one person you know who is living with a quality they have not yet understood as design, who is wondering why they move differently from the people around them, who has felt the effects of what they carry without knowing what to call it. Let this word reach them. They are not ordinary. They never were. God bless you, beloved.